August 1944. Behind the Canadian sector in Normandy, a canvas workshop glows under harsh work lights. Inside, teams of Canadian engineers strip artillery from American-built M7 Priest vehicles, fast, focused, and silent. Gun mounts come off. Storage racks come out. Steel is measured, cut, and prepared for welding. What rolls out looks unfinished. A tracked hull, open top, no main weapon, only a simple defensive mount. To outsiders, it seems like a damaged vehicle headed for scrap, but it's the start of a new idea. Within days, dozens of these machines will carry infantry into one of the largest mechanized pushes of the campaign. They were nicknamed kangaroos because troops rode protected inside, like a pouch on tracks. To understand why kangaroos mattered, you have to understand the problem Canada faced in Normandy. In the weeks after D-Day, Canadian infantry units were taking losses that threatened to exhaust entire formations. This wasn't about bravery, as it was about exposure. Open ground and fixed defenses punished foot movement. Light carriers could move a handful of men, but thin armor offered limited protection against fragments and heavy machine fire. Half-tracks were scarce, prioritized elsewhere, and still not built to take sustained battlefield punishment. And trucks near the front were simply too vulnerable to do the job safely. Meanwhile, a solution was sitting idle. Surplus M7 Priests with their guns no longer needed, but their armored hulls intact, tracked, reliable engines, thick cast armor, enough room for men if the weapon was removed. Canadian commanders saw the imbalance and made a simple decision. Keep the armor, remove the gun, carry the infantry. An engineer estimated weeks for conversion. The answer back was, you have days. So teams pulled steel from everywhere. Wrecked hulks, damaged landing craft, and newly reopened French industry. When tests showed single plates weren't enough, the engineers layered steel and added sand fill as improvised protection. Engines were rebuilt. Radios were retained when possible. Every hour counted. A prototype was presented, inspected, and approved because the need was immediate. Within a week, 76 kangaroos stood ready, each carrying a driver and a full infantry section. It was improvisation at industrial scale, built outside normal paperwork, but built to solve a real battlefield math problem. And their first major test came during a night advance, a combined force moving in armored columns toward distant objectives. Kangaroos carried infantry close, so soldiers could dismount near their objective instead of crossing long open stretches on foot. The result was immediate. Units arriving more organized, less exhausted, and far less exposed during the approach. Side-by-side comparisons in the same operation showed a stark difference. Protected movement reduced losses dramatically, and that single night ended the debate. Armored transport wasn't a luxury. It was a survival requirement. The first kangaroos were a stopgap, so a more sustainable plan began. Convert obsolete tanks into dedicated carriers. Removing the turret reduced weight, lowered the profile, and opened space for 10 or more fully equipped infantry. Soon, an armored carrier unit was formed, organized, trained, and assigned to support specialized assault operations. From Normandy onward, these carriers moved troops across northwest Europe, through ports, villages, and difficult terrain. They protected against bullets, fragments, and shock, though crews knew no vehicle is invulnerable. Even with limits, the key results stayed consistent. Fewer infantry losses during the approach meant stronger assaults at the objective. After the war, most countries chose lighter armored carriers, faster, cheaper, and easier to deploy in large numbers. But lighter armor often meant a hard trade-off. Protection fell as mobility rose. One nation later returned to the kangaroo principle, converting tank hulls into heavy troop carriers to reduce infantry losses. The lesson is timeless. A carrier doesn't need to be perfect, only effective at keeping soldiers protected long enough to fight. The original Canadian Carrier Regiment that pioneered the concept was formed overseas, served non-stop, then was disbanded overseas. Recognition came slowly. The museums preserved surviving vehicles, and memorials marked where crews and passengers served. And the story returns to that workshop in Normandy, men welding scavenged steel under canvas, racing time. No turret, no main gun, open top, built fast, built from what was available, and it worked because it changed the most important number in war: how many soldiers reached the objective alive and organized. Every modern armored carrier owes something to that simple principle, so proven in days by engineers with tools, steel, and urgency. You don't need a perfect vehicle. You need a vehicle that protects people long enough to do their job. That was the Kangaroo, and that was the moment the armored personnel carrier truly began.